Hi, it's Mr. Smith. In this video, I'll be going over our syllabus. And I'll warn you, I've been sick, so I'm hoping my voice will make it through. So it looks like we're not going to have class, so I figure going over the syllabus is one thing you can certainly do on your own, and that's actually something I have students do every semester. But let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, this is college algebra, also known as Math 1314, and it's linked to DMAT 0315, which is basically uh, like beginning and intermediate algebra that we're going to teach along as we do college algebra. So in the beginning, we'll do a lot of beginning and intermediate algebra. Notice it says here, instructors respond within 24 hours for email. That's our standard. And typically I'm pretty quick, but if somehow I overlook your email or forget about it, please, if it's been 24 hours, please email me again and just remind me. I don't feel at all bothered by that. I'll be apologetic because I'm usually much better than 24 hours. Instructor contact information. You can see my name is Scott Smith. Scott is with 1T, and in fact, my nickname is 1T. So you can call me Mr. Smith or 1T. I don't mind if students call me Scott, but Mr. Smith and 1T are what most students call me. My office phone number is 972-677-8940. It's actually a number that comes directly to my phone. You can see my email address is my name, Scott Smith, at dallascollege.edu. My office is located in the J building, J127. I will be announcing office hours as soon as I decide what they're going to be. And let's see, there's a phone number for Information Central. If you need general information, they're a great starting place. So let's go ahead and talk about the course. So again, this is college algebra, which we call Math 1314. Our section number is 22405, which is the number that separates us from all the other college algebra courses. Of course, this is spring 2024. Notice on Mondays and Wednesdays, we meet in room 135 in the M building and M122 on Tuesday, Thursdays. I'm very excited about this course. Instead of meeting twice a week for 3 hours, we spread it out over 4 days. So we do have to come to school each of those 4 days, but it's much more manageable to do math in an hour and 20 minutes, which is what we'll be doing. So our certification date we'll talk more about later. It's January 29th, and the last day to withdraw is April 12th. And the only thing I'd add there is just make sure that you do go about it the right way. I hope that you'll talk to me. Sometimes students get discouraged, and you may talk to me and find out you're really not in all that bad a shape, even if you feel like you might be. At the very least, I can, talk about where you're at and help you make a decision. Also, you'll want to maybe talk to your success coach. If you're a veteran, Veterans Affairs. If you get financial aid, you may need to talk to the financial aid office. But my main point is do it the right way. Sometimes students get discouraged. They just stop coming to school. A few years later, they're back and they find out they're on academic probation. So I don't want to see that happen to you. Make sure that you withdraw the correct way if you do need to withdraw at some point. And I'm hoping that won't be the case. Let's move on to the next page. Now, there's not a whole lot we're going to talk about here. This is the description of the course, student learning outcomes. That's the types of things you'll learn and you should be able to do after taking this course. Texas core objectives, you'll find that in all of your syllabi. And basically, these are the things that we want to see students improve upon while they're here with us at Dallas College. So you can look those over if you haven't already. Let's move on to required course materials. So the nice thing is when you pay for a course here, you're going to get your materials with the course. Now, in our case, that's MyLab Math. So MyLab Math is associated with the book that we use, and it basically is where you'll be doing all your, actually for you guys, since this is a face-to-face class, it'll be your homework and your quizzes. Everything like your tests will be done in the testing center. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, it is possible to opt out of the Include Ed program, but there's really no reason to do that, and it just tends to lead to problems. I've seen students in the past, they were using the materials and suddenly they disappear and they're like, oh shoot, I didn't participate, and it creates lots of issues. So generally not a good idea, not at all. I've never seen it be a good idea. The only thing that's not included with your tuition as far as what you're going to need would be a calculator. Let me get the calculator that I recommend for this course. Oh wait, no, this is college algebra. I'm grabbing the wrong one. So I have a TI-84 CE. You don't have to get the CE. They are nicer, but they're more expensive. You can get just the regular TI-84 calculator. You know, they are expensive. They're over $100. And my recommendation is, especially if this is your last math course, is check with friends and family, and maybe somebody has one laying around that they aren't even using. You can also go online and find used ones and get a discounted rate, or get a lower rate by getting a used one. But if you are going to be going on and doing other courses, you want to get a nice graphing calculator and be able to use it. We use the TI-84. The 83 will work, although I don't see many of those around these days, but they don't have the same ability for some of the things we do. All right, but you do need to make sure you have a calculator. You're going to want to have that in the first couple of weeks. And of course, since you're doing all your homework and quizzes online, you're going to have a reliable internet service at home and a computer. So it's really important that you have that. So MyLab Math is an online textbook-based software where you'll complete assignments. Students must have access to a computer with internet access to complete the required work for this course. To get started, you just click on MyLab Math on the home page in eCampus and just follow the directions. I also did a video tour of MyLab Math that I highly recommend, especially if you've never used My Math Lab before. I do call it My Math Lab. Sometimes that's its old name. So for graded work, notice homework is 16% of your grade, quizzes 8%. Tests are 56%. There's 7 tests, so it's 8% per test. And we do have a final that's 20% of your grade. So it's very important that you're learning the material as we go through the course. We have the traditional grading scale. Notice for your final grade in 0315, DMAT 0315, students who finish out the semester will earn the higher of the following 2 grades. The student's course grade, average through test 5, including the first 5 test scores, or the final average earned for Math 1314 at the end of the course. So normally the higher grade is going to be after test 5, but it is possible that you would get the grade that you get in Math 1314 if it's higher. Students who earn a final grade of D in Math 1314, which means you don't pass this course, but you would get a C in DMAT 0315, which means when you retake the college algebra course, you would not have to take both courses. So obviously that would be a minimum that you would want to achieve, and hopefully you'll get through both courses the first time. Description of graded work. So homework. So it says here, homework will be assigned in MyLab Math to practice the material learned in each section of the book. So one of the really nice things about MyLab Math is that you'll know if you're getting problems right or wrong. And if you get a problem wrong, you have access normally to a detailed solution to a similar problem, or videos and other types of resources. On the other hand, I do recommend that you get some kind of a notebook to take notes in, and to do your homework in. And so as you're doing the homework, write down the problems, write down the work, make a note of any questions, maybe make some notes of problems that you struggled with, that you need to spend more time on. And this helps in a number of ways. Number one, I know for me, writing things down helps me to learn things. And so that's certainly one of the things that I think is important. But the other thing is when you come to a quiz, which normally goes over maybe 3 or 4 homework assignments, you can always look over those homework assignments and spend a little time with the things that you maybe struggled with, and then take the quiz, and hopefully you'll be much better prepared. But it's nice to have a place to go back, not just for the quizzes, but when you prepare for the test, to just kind of see what your questions were and what kind of problems you had. And hopefully you can learn from those before you take your test so you can be successful on your tests. So we talked about the quizzes. You're going to have 60 minutes to take those normally. And so they are timed. And what I was going to say is basically if you're not passing the quizzes, that's a sign that you need to get more or spend more time studying the problems, and you still have work to do as far as preparing for the test. There's 7 tests, each worth 100 points. We talked about them being about 8% each, 56% total. You will be taking your tests in the Academic Testing Center, so we'll talk about that in detail before you take your first test. I don't particularly like to do that, but because we cover so much material, we've just found that it makes things a lot better for students if they take the test outside of class. Also, time is less of an issue. Sometimes in class, students struggle to finish by the time they're supposed to be done. And so if you go in the testing center, you'll see you'll have as much time as you need, as long as they're not closing. Final exam, so it's 25 question multiple choice. It's going to be 20% of your grade. And just a note here, if your homework average at the end of the semester is at least 80%, your score on the final may be used to replace your lowest test score. So if you have a bad test, this is how you can overcome that. Now we also offer some extra credit on tests. So for the first 5 tests, there's going to be an opportunity to earn 5 extra credit points by completing the review in MyLab Math prior to taking the test. We'll have a review in class, and then there's an optional review in my math lab. And if you complete that with certain percentages, you'll get some extra points. So you'll see those on the next page here. So to get 5 points, you've got to get a 90 to 100%, all the way down to 70 to 74 for 1 bonus point. Let's talk about late work. So homework quizzes and test reviews are due as indicated on the course calendar and in MyLab Math. Now the reviews actually won't be due, well, they'll be due by the test, but those are for extra credit. But for the homework and the quizzes, if you're late, then the penalty is 25%. The test reviews may not be completed after the test for bonus points. So if you're wanting to get those bonus points, you got to do that before the test. You cannot do it afterwards. It's very important that you don't miss a test deadline. And if you see that you're going to, you should contact me right away. I'm assuming there'll be special circumstances. Otherwise, you would just get a 0 on the test. So my point here is make sure that you don't miss the test unless there's some kind of an emergency. Instructor-student communication. So it's really important for all students at Dallas College that you're using your school email. And that's the policy of the school. And like for me, all of my email comes directly to my phone. And so I know right away whenever I get an email. So if I get sick and I miss class, I'll send an email off early that morning at the latest. And so if you're not seeing your emails, you may miss something like that. But it's just important that you're monitoring your email for your school email. That's how I'll communicate outside of the class. The other thing I just want to remind you is anytime you have questions or you need anything, please don't hesitate to talk to me. You can call me. You can email me. If you send an email, please use the course number and the ID so I know which class we're talking about, especially early in the semester. It's just really important that we can communicate with one another. And I wouldn't mention if we didn't have a number of students that we've had issues with in the past. I'm sending out emails and they're not getting them, and so it just creates a really big problem, especially when it comes to grades. So attendance and participation, basically you just need to be here the first 2 weeks and start working on assignments in My Lab Math, but that's really just a minimum to be certified as attending. Notice you really need to be done with up through quiz 4 by January 28th, which is when certification needs to be done, with an average of 70% on the assignments. So you want to make sure you get off to a good start. Make sure you get started on assignments. If you're having any problems, please contact me right away. And as I stated before, shoot for that 80%. That's what you're going to need in order to drop or replace your lowest test score with what you get on your final. Institutional policies, so these deal with things like tutoring, dropping classes, etc. If you haven't seen these before, you should go in there and just make sure you're familiar with our policies. If there's any kind of changes, I will let you know. Sometimes things change depending on circumstances. All right, last thing, here's our course schedule or calendar. So you can see all the first week assignments are due by January 21st, this coming Sunday. It's going to be a little bit harder with what's going on with the weather, but I really hope that we can get all these done this week, because you can see next week is very full as well. So in the beginning, we hit a lot of things pretty quick because they're just reviews of concepts that you should have seen in the past. We're just spending a little time going over those. And so things will move faster in the earlier weeks. When we get further along, especially when we get into college algebra topics, we'll have more time to cover the sections. You'll notice your first test is going to be February the 2nd, which is a Friday. So I would highly recommend that you print this out and have it available wherever maybe have a folder that you'll use whenever you do assignments. but also if anything changes, I'll mention it in class. Sometimes I may have to adjust some of the dates for some of the homework, but for the most part, we stay pretty close to the calendar. All right, well, I made it, although my voice is struggling. Anyway, I'm looking forward to working with you this semester, and please let me know if you have any more questions. I hope that was very helpful.